Hi guys. So we are going to be doing probably 4 lessons from now on. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes it some lessons might be a little longer than others, but I'm going to try and do around 4 lessons a week now. The nice thing is that chapter 3 tends to be one of the easiest chapters, so it is pretty doable when it comes to chapter 3. So I am going to be recording 4 lessons for this coming week. So there will be a lesson on Monday, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So just letting you know, also, if you want to do them all in one day, that is totally up to you as well, and get it all done for the week. But I'm just letting you know it will be 4 lessons a week now. I still want you to do iReady as well. I think my goal for this week, this 9 weeks, is I want you to do 13 iReady lessons. So that would be a total of 20 by the end of this 9 weeks. The 9 weeks will end about mid-January. So if you can get 13 iReady lessons done for this 9 weeks, that would be great. That is probably going to be my other thing that I really want you to do. So I just want a total of 20 by the end of this 9 weeks, which again is in mid-January. So I am going to start talking about 3.2. So I'm going to flip my camera around. All right, so this is talking about place value of decimals. Now, the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel in New York City is 1 and 726 thousandths miles long. It is the longest underwater tunnel for vehicles in the United States. To understand the distance, you need to understand the place value of each digit in this number. So you can use a place value chart to understand the decimals. Whole numbers are to the left of the decimal, and decimals are to the right of the decimal point. The thousandths place is to the right of the hundredths. So I do have a bit of a way to remember how to do this in its place value. So I was kind of showing you it on the previous lesson, but I'm just going to talk about it real quick. So here, you're going to be doing expanded form, and this is kind of like the expanded form that they would like you to see. They're saying that you probably learned this in 4th grade. So when you do decimals, this is one way to write expanded form for each place value. The 1 is in the ones place, so it'll be 1.0. This one would be 7 in the tenths, so it'll be 0.7. And then 2 in the hundredths, so that means everything before is going to be in a 0, 0.0, and then this one is a 2. And then the other one is 6 in the thousandths, which is, again, everything turns to zeros except for that digit, 0.006. And then the other way that they're going to be showing you this lesson is that you would be writing down the digit times the place value, which we were doing that in chapter 1. So the 1 is the digit and it's in the ones place. So that is why it's 1 times 1. Then the next digit, you're going to have to say plus. And then the next one is 7, because that's the digit, times tenths. So 1/10 can be 1 over 10. And that's how they want you to write it. So that would be another one. Then you would have to do plus again. And then the digit, again, is a 2 in the hundredths. So you would go 2 times 1 over 100. And then the next one is you have to have a plus in between. The last one is a 6 in the thousandths. So you do 6 times 1 over 1,000. So that is how you find that. Also, I need you to understand that everything going to the left of the decimal always is your whole numbers. So, and you see it always ends in S. Well, there is a difference when it comes to things after the decimal. Everything ends in THS. So it is not just the tens now, it's the tenths. This one is the hundredths. You have to stress that because otherwise it will make it wrong if you don't have those THS at the end. And this one is the thousandths. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that I do want to show you is there is a bit of a trick, which I kind of showed you uh, last lesson. But if you know where the ones place, which is always the one before the decimal, and then you add on zeros, that is telling you that the last digit is in the thousands place. So when it comes to decimals, the last thing, when you're talking about words, you always have to say what that last digit's place value is, and we'll go more into that in a little bit. But I do want you to know that is very important that you know that. So the place value of the digit 6 in this is the thousands. So the value of the 6 is either 6 times 1,000th, or you could just change everything to zeros until you get to that 6, which is still 6 thousandths as well. So standard form. This is, again, people are doing this wrong, still on your homework. This is the actual number. That's what standard form is. So it's just your actual normal number that you see. Word form is in words, and then expanded form is just the long way to say it with like addition, with addition signs in between each one. Each digit times the place value. And it's only one digit at a time. I'm seeing a lot of people putting like 2 digits here. It's only one digit at a time. So 1 digit at a time. So keep that in mind as well. So in this case, it says here is the number, and then they want to write it in words. The other thing that I need to really go into as well is that the decimal does have a specific word. It is and. So whenever you see a decimal, you're going to say the word and. And that's why when it comes to like this number 726, a lot of people were saying 726, and that is actually wrong way to say that, because whenever you hear the word and, you're supposed to put the decimal. So I'm trying to teach all the kids to leave that whole 726 out, because that is actually the wrong way to say it. It's just 726. So whenever you see the decimal, you need to put and in there. So in this case, when you are writing out the words to this, you're going to do the first part before the decimal, which is just a 2. And then you have the decimal, which is and. Now, how you do this is now you look at that back number. How do you say 35? You would say that 35. Now, some people put a little dash in between to say the 30 and the 5 go together. That is up to you if you want to do that or not. I'm not going to take off for that if you don't have a dash in between. If you say just 35, I'm good with that too. So it is 2 and 35. Now, when it comes to decimals, you have to say the last word in each of the word form has to say what that last digit place value is, which the 5 in this case is in what place value. Now, in order to find this, you find your ones and you add on zeros, and it is telling you it's in the hundredths place. So it is 2 and 35 hundredths. Again, you have to put that THS at the end. If you do not do that, I have to mark it wrong if you just put hundreds. So please be very careful on that. This one is saying the expanded form, you would do 2 is the digit, and then its place value, which is in the ones. So 2 times 1 plus, then the next one is a 3, and it is in the tenths. So you would just say times 1/10. Next one, you would have to have an addition sign. And then the next one is a 5 in the 5 in the hundredths. So that would be in the 100ths place, 1 over 100. All right, now this one is actually blanking out the standard form, but they're giving you the word form. So my advice to you is just to read it all the way through and then start sectioning it out in little pieces. So this one says 3 and 614 thousandths. So we're going to start with the first part. 3 and. Well, how would I show 3 and? It would be a 3. And then remember the and stands for the decimal. So and then the next part is 614. So how would you make 614? Well, you would make 614 by doing 614. And then it's saying that that last digit of 14, which is a 4, better be in the thousands place. So I'm going to just check it and see if it's in the thousands place. And what number is that 4 in? It is in the thousands. So therefore, this is the correct number. So this is how you would write that in standard form. Now they want us to write it in expanded form. So the first one, again, if you want to use that strategy of putting a 1 under it, you may most certainly do that and add on zeros. The 3 is the first digit. And then you say its place value. Well, it's in the ones. So we're going to times it by 1. Then the next one is a 6, and it's in the tenths. So they already have that for us. Then the next one is a 1, and it is in the hundredths. Do you guys see that that is the hundredths, showing 100? So we are going to do a 1 times 1 over 100. And then plus, and then the last one is a 4 in the thousands. So we're going to say a 4 times 1 over 1,000. And that is how you do that. Okay, now we're going to start doing some more of this. All right, so it says a common garden spider spins a web with its silk, and it's about 3,000 millimeter thick. A common use sewing thread is about 3/10 millimeter thick. How does the thickness of the spider silk and the thread compare? So what they want you to do is to first take the first one, which is 3,000. So I'm going to put it in here. And then we're going to compare it to this next one. All right, so counting the number of decimal places, place value positions to the digit 3 and here to here. So this has how many fewer places than this number? So it has 1, 2 fewer. Now remember, each place is times 10. Remember that? So this is getting bigger this way, because this is kind of like saying like 30 cents. This is not even a cent. So you could always put down zeros for placeholders as well. So therefore, 2 decimal places is actually, each one is times 10, so 10 times 10. So therefore, it is 100. So 3/10 is, you got to say, is 3/10 bigger or smaller than 3/1000? Well, if you put on zeros, you can actually see it a little better. This one is saying it's actually 300,000 versus just 3,000. Well, this one is bigger because it's 300,000. So the 3/10, because if you cross those out, it still gives you 3/10, is larger by 2 places. So therefore, it is 100 times greater. That's 2 places. Again, 10 times 10 bigger. Now, it is saying that this one is what of 3/10? Well, it's actually smaller by 2 places. So it is actually a tenth times a tenth smaller. So this one, if you multiply across, that would actually give you 1 over 10 times 10 is 100. So this is actually 100th of the size, smaller by 2 places. So the thread is what times as thick as the garden spider silk. So the thread is the one that is bigger than the garden spider web. So therefore it is bigger by 2 places. So it is 100 times larger. And then it's saying the thickness of the garden spider's silk is blank that of the thread. This is where it is smaller by 2 places. So we're going to say 100th of the size. All right. We are not going to be doing this one because nobody talks like that. So I'm not going to have you do that one. So we're going to come over here, and again, keep in mind that when it comes to things like this, when it comes to expanded form, you need to write it in this kind of state. You need to first write the 1 digit. I better stress it is just 1 digit. A lot of people are putting 2 in here. Again, just 1 digit at a time. And then you say what place it is in, place value. And then make sure you have pluses after each one or before each one. So keep that in mind. All right, so they want you to complete the chart. So this one is showing you a 3 is in the 1's place. This one is showing you the digit is 5 and it is in the 10th. So we would say times 1 over 10 because that is 1/10. This one is a 2 in the 100ths place. So it'd be a 2 times 1 over 100. This one is a 4 and it is times, it's in the 1,000ths. So you do 1 over 1,000. All right, next. Here you would do, what is this number going to be in a decimal format? It would be 3 times 1, which is just a 3, or people actually write down 3.0 to show that there's nothing after it. It is up to you what you want to do. I would just keep it a 3. The next one is a 5 in the 10th. So you're just worrying about that 5 and everything before it turns to zeros. Here, we're just worried about this 2. So again, everything before it is zeros because we're only worried about that 2. And then this becomes a 2. And then the last one, again, everything before would be 0. So a 0, decimal, 0, 0, 4. So that is what your answer would be if you add them all up. And I like to put these in parentheses. Sometimes they put them in parentheses, sometimes they don't. I just like to, it just makes it a little bit easier for my brain to understand it. So now this one, they want to know what is the value of that underlying digit. Now there are two ways that I would accept this. You could put it in decimal mode. So you could say, all right, it is a 0 decimal 0 4, because we're only worried about that 4 and 4 only. The other way I will take it is if you say it is a 4 in the, and you got to say what place it's in. So if you find your ones place, which is the one always before the decimal, and add on zeros, it is a 4 in the hundredths. So you could have also said 4 hundredths as well. Again, you have to say THS at the end to stress that it is after the decimal. So remember, after the decimal always ends in THS. The ones before it always ends in just S. All right, so now this one, if you want, you could write it out. That is a 2 in the tenths. Or you could have also wrote out the decimal of it, which it's just a 2 and then a decimal, and then this would be a 0. So you could have also done that as well. On this one, you could have found, again, the ones place and added zeros. That is actually saying 4 in the thousandths. So you could have said 4 thousandths, or I would have accepted you could have just have wrote down the 4 because that's the only one that they're worried about, and then added the rest of them as zeros before it with the decimal. So that is also the other way you could have said. All right, so on this one, they want the two other forms. So in this case, the two other forms are either word form or expanded. So that is what this is. I'm going to say word and expanded form. So the word form to this. Now, when it comes to 0 wholes, if you look at that as 0 wholes, some people do write 0 and then go into it. But if there is no wholes, you really don't have to say 0. You could just go right into the decimal. So some people say 0 and then they go into it. Or some people don't. So I'm going to put this here. If there is no whole number, you don't have to write 0 and it is optional, but it is there. So I'm going to box that in saying that that is optional. The other thing that you could have said is just gone right into the decimal. How would you write 253? You write that 253. So you still say the same normal way of writing out the number. So 253. And then you have to say what that last digit's place value is. So the last digit is in the thousandths. So then you would just write out thousandths. And that is the word form for that. So you could have said 0 and 253 thousandths, or you could have just said 253 thousandths. Again, make sure that the THS at the end, and make sure that when it comes to word form, the last digit's place value is there. You have to say the last digit's place value after the decimal every time you write it in words. All right, so then next is the expanded form. So I'm going to say EX for expanded. The 2, so remember in expanded form, we don't have to worry about a 0. If the 0 is a digit, we can skip that. So I'm going to skip that 0 because it's not necessary to write it. The first one is a 2 in the tenths. So in order to write this, I would go 2 is the digit times the tenth. So 1/10. 1/10. Then I put a plus for the next one. Then the next one is a 5 in the hundredths. So how you would write that is the 5 is the only digit, one digit at a time, and you have to say that's in the hundredths. So 1 over 100. Then plus the 3 is in the thousandths. So you would say 3 times 1,000. And that is the answer to that. Those are your two things showing. All right, next we are going to do this one. Now this one does have a whole number, so we have to put that one in there. We don't have an option. So I'm going to say W for word. So the word form is everything before the decimal is just a 7. So I'm going to say 7. Then the decimal. So how do you write the decimal again? It is and. Then all you say is how do you say 632 as if it were just a regular number? You would say 632. A lot of people want to get that confused just because it's after the decimal. They think it changes. It does not change. It is still the same exact thing. So it is 632. So 632. Now, the only thing that you have to do when it comes to decimal, so it's still the same normal number, and this is where it gets a lot of people confused because they're like, oh, well, we already said 100. Yeah, you don't worry about that. All you have to worry about is just how you say that, 632. Don't get confused by that. It's still saying 632, so make sure you write that 100 in there because that's what it says. The only difference is that you got to say its last digit's place value. So if you know your ones place and you add on zeros, the 2 is telling you it's in the thousands place. So the only difference here is that you have to add on thousandths at the end. So make sure when it comes to word, I'm going to write that over here. When it comes to a word, you must put, I should say in word form. Actually, I'll do it right here. When it comes to word form, after the decimal, so if there's numbers after the decimal, end the word form with the last digit's place value. It is very important that you do that. So, all right, so then now we can keep on going. I'm sorry, my lights just went off in my room, so now it's really dark. That's okay. So the next one is the expanded form. So the expanded form is the first one. The first digit that we are going to worry about is the 7 here. And what place is it in? It is in the 1. So we're going to times it by the 1. Then remember, in between each number, we have to add. Then the next one is a 6, and it is in the tenths. So in order to do that, you would do 6 times 1 over 10. Then plus the next digit is a 3, and if you look, it says 100 underneath it. So that means the 3 is the next digit. Again, only one digit is allowed over here at a time. And then we would say in the hundredths, so that would be 100th. Then add, and then the last digit is a 2 in the thousandths. So then we would say 2 times 1 over 1,000. Okay, and then that was your two other forms. Now I want you to try these on your own. So pause the video and try these on your own. Now, when you do that, remember that this is going to be expanded is the other form, and Word. So these are your two other ones they want you to write. So please pause this and try that on your own. Okay, so you should have paused this and see what you did get. So again, I would have accepted one of two answers. Now on your homework, only give me one. You don't have to give me both. So on this, you could have wrote 9 in the hundredths. Remember, THS is at the end. Or if you wrote it out as an decimal, I'll say or, your other option would have been this. That is also saying a 9 is the only one that we're worried about, and everything before it is zeros. Everything after can drop off. It is not necessary. All right, so here in this case, the one that I care about is just the 7. Everything before is then going to turn to zeros. And then everything after just drops off. You don't worry about it. Or you could have also found the ones place and added on zeros. That is saying 7 in the tenths. So it'll be one of those two. This one, you could have said, if you added on zeros, that is saying a 6 in the thousandths. So you could have said 6 thousandths. Now remember, if you are saying this after the decimal, always ends in THS. So do not forget. If you just say thousands, 6,000s, I have to mark it wrong. So make sure you are putting that THS at the end. It is very important. And then your decimal would have been 0.006. All right, next. This one is, if you want to put just the decimal, it would have been like this. Or you could have said it is a 3 in the tenths. So it would be 3/10. Again, THS has to be at the end. This one is exactly what it's actually showing you. That is its actual decimal of what it's worth. And that, if you find the ones place again and you add on zeros, it is a 2 in the thousandths. So it'd be 2 thousandths. Next, again, they're going to throw you through a loop and hope that you get, confused. You are still only worried about that ones place, which is the one before the decimal, and that is it. So once you find that, then you can add on zeros. And it is a 1 in the thousandths. So you could have said 1,000th. Or you could have said everything before, there are 0 holes, decimals, 0, 0, and then a 1. You could have said that as well. All right, the two other ways that you could have wrote this out is, again, Word and expanded. So Word form, here's another one that has 0. And so I'm going to put that up here saying that it is optional. You could have said 0 and. Then the next part is, again, if you find the ones place and you add on zeros, this is how you would do this. Again, all you say is how you would say this number and this number only. Don't worry about anything else. Just how would you say 489? You would say that as 489. And then you have to say its place value, which is thousandths. And then you go to expanded form, you talk about each digit. So you do not have to worry about that 0. So you go to the 4. The 4 is in the tenths. So 4 times 1/10 plus, then you go over to the 8. The 8 is in, oh, sorry. The 8 is the 1 digit. And then you times it by its place, which is the hundredths. So 1 over 100. Then plus, and then you go 9 is in the thousands. So it'll be 1 over 1,000. All right, next. So that is that one. Again, make sure that if you're writing in decimal, it is ending in THS. All right, so this one, again, if you find the ones and you add on zeros, that is what you will be doing. So the word form for this is the following. You worry about everything before the decimal, which is just a 5. Now the decimal, which is and then you say this number as itself, by itself. Don't worry about that it's saying 100 again when it's actually in thousands. You don't worry about that until the end. So how do you say 916? You say that 900, 16. And then now you say its place value at the end, which is the thousandths. So you got to write thousandths to end it correctly. THS at the end. All right, now the expanded form, I'm going to write real fast. The 5 is the first digit that we care about, and it is in the ones place, then plus. Then the 9 is in the, so you do 1 over 10, plus, now it is a 1 in the hundredths. So then you say 1 is the digit, and you times it in 1 over 100. And then plus, and then it is a 6 in the thousands. So you go 6 times 1 over 1,000. And that is the end of that one. All right, now, here is the next part. The next part just simply says, what is the value of the digit 7 in New Mexico's average rainfall? So it's saying average annual rainfall in meters. So they want to know the New Mexico's one. And there is your number. That 7 is right there. So if you want to, I am going to actually just write out that number and underline it so I can see it. So again, there are 2 ways. Again, they just want to know the value of it. So you could have said one of the following. You could have put everything in decimal mode and just worried about that 7. Or you could have also have wrote it out. It is a 7 in the hundredths. So, or you could wrote 7 hundredths. Either way is good. Remember, if you're saying hundredths, you need to stress that THS at the end. It says, which of the states has an average annual rainfall with the least number in the thousands place? And what is another way to write the total annual rainfall in this state? All right, so they're saying the one with the least number, the smallest number in the thousands. So remember, if you know where your ones place is, your thousandths is this last digit. So which one has the smallest one? It is the 0, which is Wisconsin. So I'm going to put down Wisconsin. Okay, so it's Wisconsin, and they said which state. So we just named the state. What is another way to write that total annual rainfall? Okay, so what they mean is you could write it as 820 thousandths because it's in the thousands place. Or you could have dropped it off because that 0, if there's a 0 back there, you don't really need to keep saying it because guys, after the decimal, there's zeros on all these numbers. If you keep on going, there's zeros that just can continue forever and ever. So in this case, it's just one of those zeros that can continue forever and ever. So you don't really have to say that. You could have also said 82 hundredths is another way to say that. So you could have said, there was two ways that you could have said. You could have said 0. Remember, this is optional because there is no whole number. So it is optional to have this part. 0 and 82 hundredths. Sorry, hundredths. Remember, stress the THS, that's right. Or you could have said 820 thousandths. Or you could have again said 0 and then said 820 thousandths. Again, stress that THS at the end. All right, Damien wrote the number 4 and 23,000 says this. Describe and correct his error. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this. So it says 4 and, okay, well, 4 and means the decimal. Now it says 23 thousandths. Well, if you look here, it is actually saying 23 is in the hundredths. So it's saying that it wants 23. So we all know that 23, the 3 is the last digit. The 3 better be in the thousandths. So in this case, the 3 needs to be in the thousandths, which is right here. But how do I still make this say 23? It would be a 2 would have to be here. But then there is nothing here. So in this case, I have to keep a 0 as a placeholder. So this is truly what it is meaning. So in other words, what had happened is he wrote 4, I'm just going to say 4 and 23 hundredths. He forgot the 0. Before it. How about that? The 0 before the 23. All right, so next it says Dan used a meter stick to measure some seedlings in his garden. One day, a corn stalk was 8,500 meters tall, a tomato plant was 850 meters tall, and the carrot top was 85 thousandths meters. What plant was the shortest? All right, so this is actually going into what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, which is like comparing decimals. My advice to you is, I like how they're starting this because we're actually going to be doing this on the next lesson. So if you line these decimals up, so here is cornstalk, so I could say CO for corn. Then the next one is tomato. I'm going to line up the decimals. So this one is a 0, decimal 850. And then carrot, I'm going to say CA for carrot. It was 0, decimal 085. Now, the one thing that you need to know is when it comes to lining up the decimal, then you can kind of compare the numbers. When you see a blank, you could always insert a placeholder, which is a 0 in it. So if you actually look, these two are actually the exact same. It's just one had the 0 and one did not. They still mean the exact same thing. So what you do is you look over at the ones place and see if there is nothing. There isn't. So you can't tell which one is the smallest yet. So then you look on to the next one. We have an 8, an 8, and a 0. So is one smaller than the others? Yes, it is. The one with the 0 is the smallest. So therefore, which plant is the shortest? It is the carrot. Sorry, carrot. Okay, so explain how you know the digit 6 does not have the same value in these two numbers. So if you look here, this one, this 6 is truly saying 0.6, and then this one is saying 0.006. So this one and this one are totally different, because if you add on zeros to get to that place, it is actually saying 600 thousandths, and this one is actually saying just 6 thousandths. So they are different values because they're not the same value. They are not in the same place value. So they are in different place values. Different place values. So they are not the same value. All right, now I want you to actually try this on your own. So I want you to pause this and try this. It says, what is the value of the underlined digit? It says, mark all that apply. So possibly there's more than one answer. Could be all of them could be right. So please pause this and see if you can get this on your own. All right, so you should have paused. And if you did this, if you could have done one of two things. You could have added on those zeros, found the ones place and added on zeros. It is an 8 in the hundredths. So also, if it was in a decimal mode, remember the 8 is the only one that we care about. We don't care about the numbers after, but we do care about the numbers before. You would just add a 0 for each digit before it. So this is what it is saying. So this one is actually saying 8 in the tenths. So that is not the same. But these two are the same because they're both saying 8 in the hundredths. This one is saying 8 tenths, which is not true. This one is saying 8 in the hundredths, which is true. And then this one is saying that the 8 is showing that it is in the tenths place, which it is not. It is showing it in the hundredths place. So therefore, the only two correct answers would be these two. All right, now we are going to go over here. Here is your homework. There are going to be some that you're going to be doing together. And then you're going to be on your own on some of them. Again, I just need a picture of this, both the front and the back, so that I can grade this. So this is your homework page. So they're saying, what is the value of that underlined digit? So you can go to the ones place and add on 0. And that is just saying a 3 in the tenths. So you could write out 3/10, or you could have wrote out the decimal for it. So it's one or the other. Don't think that you have to do both. Just pick one or the other. So the other one is just writing the 3 is the underlying digit, and everything before it needs to turn to zeros if there is a number there. So that is one or the other. You're actually going to do number 3 for homework. We're going to do number 4 together. So again, if you find the ones place and add on 0 to that digit, it is saying a 1 is in the tenths. So you could write this as 1/10, or you could have wrote the decimal of 1 and then a decimal and then a 0. Next, again, if you find your ones place, add on zeros. It is showing a 6 in the thousands. So you could have wrote that 6 in the thousandths. Remember, stress that THS. And then if you wanted just the decimal, so I would say or, should have said or, you would just write out that number, which is a 6. Every number before it would turn to zeros, and a decimal and a 0. So this is also showing 6 thousandths. So you would have 6 for homework. Now it says write the 2 other forms of this. So the 2 other forms of these are word and expanded. Remember, in word form, say last digit's place value. At the end. All right, so I'm going to do the word form first. So I'm going to, again, use my strategy of finding the ones place and adding on zeros. So again, this starts with no whole numbers. So it is optional whether I want to say 0 and. It does not matter if I do. I can most certainly say 0 and, or I don't have to. I could go right into it. How do you say 3 to 6? You would say 326. 326. And the only difference is when it comes to the word form after the decimal, you must state the last digit's place value. So the 6 is in the thousands. So you would say 326, and then you have to say thousands. Yeah, I'm going to rewrite it underneath. Thousandths. Again, stress that THS after the decimal. Remember, everything after the decimal ends in THS. Don't forget that. And then the expanded form, each digit, again, the first digit is a 0, which we don't have to put in there. So we can skip and go right on to the 3. The first digit is a 3 that I have to write down, and it is saying it's in the tenths, so times by 1/10. Then plus. Then you go on to the next one. It is a 2 in the hundredths, so that is a 2 times 1/100. And then a plus. And then this is going to be a 6 in the thousandths. So then you would just say 6 times 1/1000. And then that is your number in expanded form. All right, next. I'm going to do this one as well with you. Again, find the ones place, add on zeros. We're going to do the word form. The word form on this does have a whole number, so we have to say that. So that is 8 and. And then how do you say the last 3? It's 517. You would say that 517. So 517. And then when you say 517, now you have to say that last digit's place value, which in this case, the last digit's place value is thousands. So you must say the thousands. All right, and then expanded form. you are going to write each digit. So the first digit we have to write is the 8, and that is in the ones. So we would just say times 1. Plus, then you go to the 5. The 5 is in the tenths. So you would do 5 times 1/10. Then you go plus. Then you go on to the next digit. A 1 is in the hundredths. So you would do 1 times 1/100 plus. Then you go to the last digit, which is a 7 in the thousands. So 7 times 1/1000. And that is your answer to that. All right, so then now you're going to do number 9 and 10. Again, you are going to do the word form and the expanded. And then same thing here. I'm going to say W for word and EX for expanded. So those are what I want you to do for those two. I want you to also do 11 and 12. You are not going to do 13. Then on the back, I want you to do all 6. And then you will just take a picture of these after you are done and just submit it on the assignment or have your parents email me your pictures. And that is it for this assignment. So that was lesson 3.2. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Just contact me by email or have your parents email me or comment on your Google Classroom to me, just saying that you need help and I can Zoom with you and figure out a Zoom. So I will see you on the next lesson. Bye, guys.